Hello, the internet. I'm here with Kosar from the Education Labs group. Hi, Kosar.
Hello.
You are here to talk to us today about Moodle and specifically your group's integration of the Windows Live services with Moodle. Let's start from the beginning. What is Moodle? What does it do?
Moodle is a learning management system, also called the course management system, also called the virtual learning environment.
Okay.
Basically, it's a series of web servers and web content that you can use to put together a course. If you're a teacher and you're going to be able to organize all your material for a course, you can pretty easily download it, add your course material, and create a course for your students. It's a website, essentially, that you can run on your laptop. You can also run it on a hosted platform, a third-party platform, and it very quickly gets you up and running to be able to do things like put your course assignments on there, have students take quizzes, have them talk about things like there's chats and forums and wikis and blogs and so forth. The basic concept of this is based on the constructivist theory of learning, which says that learners do better if they can interact with other learners, and that they can basically create the material for their education as they go along, rather than getting a rote set of things that they can only take in. They can basically also participate in the process.
Now, is it a Microsoft product, Moodle?
It's not. It's actually a community product. It's an open source project. It's freely downloadable. It's licensed under the GPL v2. You can download it, you can install it and use it, you can extend it. It's been around for almost 10 years now. It's got millions of users worldwide. It's translated into lots and lots of languages. Pretty easy to install and use, pretty easy to add stuff to, and pretty popular.
Right, so the announcement from your group today is the integration of Windows Live services with Moodle, and you're also going to be releasing that code out to the community. So tell us about that.
That's right. What we found out as we talked to people, educators and students, sort of in all of the different scenarios, is that they really liked the combination of the two features, what you get in Moodle and what we had in our live services, particularly the Live at EDU services, which is a collection of live services, things like email and calendar and messenger and a bunch of others that you can basically get for an institution. They liked both of them. They kind of wanted the mix of those two. So we sat down and thought about it and said, well, how can we bring the best of those together in a way that doesn't really get in the way of the main learning experience? So what we did was we took advantage of the fact that Moodle, which stands for Modular Object-Oriented Dynamic Learning Environment,
well done,
allows us to actually plug things into Moodle. So we wrote a bunch of Moodle modules, if you will, or they're called blocks, PHP code that runs right next to the Moodle code, and they've built a pretty good set of expansion places in the code where you can add these things, and I can walk you through some of the things we added.
That'd be great, and I think people that have not heard of Moodle, perhaps they're hearing about Moodle for the first time, particularly students or educators. Can you actually show us the Moodle demo as well? Like, how does Moodle work?
Oh yeah, sure. So what I'll show you here real quickly is a test site. We use this kind of our own little test site. We use this as our place to update our code and test out the code as we've been developing.
Sure.
And so this is hosted on our test box right now. Typically what would happen is just look on the left-hand side over here. This would be what we call a front page.
Okay.
Let's say you go to your institution site, a community college, university, high school, you'd go to the URL and you'd see this. You see this or some flavor of this that would be welcome to our school and so forth. And it might show you some available courses that are there for you. But you're not yet signed in. So what Moodle gives you is the ability to sign in using either a username and password that Moodle itself manages for you, or you can actually use your own authentication system. So what we did was, using their extensibility model, we actually are plugging in the Windows Live ID authentication system directly into Moodle. So on the right-hand side here, this little tiny block is what we added to this particular site. And you can add this for your own site. You download our code. It's a zip file with a bunch of PHP and some documentation. You can take that and add it to your Moodle site. That's what we did to make all this work. So what you would do is you would come here and you would see that you can sign in with your Windows Live ID. So in this case, we're a Live at EDU school.
Okay. You
click on the sign in, and I have a bunch of live IDs. I'll click on this one to sign in, and it'll ask me for my password. So I'll log in under my Live at EDU password and user account, and we'll see that after I do that, it redirects back to the Moodle page that I was just on. So it shows you that Live ID is successfully authenticated, and now it goes back to that same page you saw, except the difference now is we know who you are based on your login, so we show you a little more information than just that first block that you saw.
Okay.
So maybe I should walk you through some of the things in here.
Please, that'd be great.
So one of the things we notice is a lot of times the students will stare at a Moodle page and they'll see something on the page and not know what it is.
Right.
So one of the things we did was we allowed the student to do things like select some words. So let's select Bronze Age. and let's see, I want to learn a little more about that. There's a bunch of ways to do it. One way is to use the accelerators in IE, or you can go over to this little button and you can click the Bing search button, and what that'll do is take those words and actually do a Bing search against
Wow.
them. So we can actually right away have the student get some more information about it. And notice how we don't try to intrude into the Moodle experience. We just pop up a different window and show it to you. Pretty simple, straightforward stuff that we thought would just make life easier for students. We also can use another search engine we have, which is called PowerSet. That's a pretty cool search engine that Microsoft has, which is a semantic search engine over the Wikipedia corpus. So what this will do is actually look for the meaning of the word Bronze Age, and it'll find that there's actually an article in PowerSet itself, which is running over Wikipedia, that tells you exactly what the Bronze Age is, and you could actually then go in and learn more about it and read the enhanced Wikipedia article, use it for research, or just for general data gathering, fact gathering. Very common thing we see, students having to constantly go from something that's in a course syllabus, for example, to, if they're curious about it, have to go out somewhere else. So real simple search integration. Of course, you can also type in whatever you want in that little search box, but that was one simple thing that we added there. If you go down here a little more, we also integrated the ability to check your email and your calendars really quickly without having to get out of the browser window that you're in. So right in here, what we're doing behind the scenes is our PHP code is calling the Exchange Web Services SOAP API over standard HTTP protocols and getting back the unread messages in this particular user's inbox and also the upcoming calendar events.
Right.
So, for example, if you were coming to class in the morning and had just gotten in from a lot of studying the night before and didn't get a chance to check your email, you can really quickly see what the unread messages are. And this is dynamic. As new ones come in, it updates that list.
Right.
So if you were in a real world scenario and really wanted to check those emails, you either could go start Outlook or go to another web browser, or you could also just pop out those messages by clicking on them, and it pops out a little window that actually shows you a preview of that message. We even have keyboard shortcuts, so you can use, I happen to be a VI user, so I use JK, and you can actually very quickly go through the keyboard shortcuts and kind of really quickly zip through your emails and go through them. So, the quick views of your emails, quick views of your calendar events, and also the ability to create email messages and new events, so that let's say you want to just send a quick message to a buddy in your class, you can create a quick email without having to pop out. You can just type in their name, and I'll show you how that will work when I go into a course.
Okay, cool.
So let me just do that. Let me go into one of the courses. This particular course is a course about sci-fi, fantasy, and horror films.
Sign me up.
It's a pretty cool course, and one of the things that you can see here is once we go into a course now, a couple of more features get added to our block. So in addition to search and email and calendar, you also see that we added the ability to check your Messenger buddy list for presence information. This is one of those cases where we're providing you context-sensitive information. This isn't just any of your buddies that are now online and in the list. It's actually your buddies that happen to be in this course.
Right.
So you don't have to look at all of your buddy list presence. You can just look at the people that you want to interact with in this particular course.
And you're not actually creating a specific group. You're just looking for all the people that are registered both with Windows Live and in this Moodle course.
Moodle course. Exactly.
Okay, wow.
Exactly. So we think this is also useful to let students quickly get to teachers and quickly get to other students. You can imagine if you're logging on in the evening and a teacher happens to be online, or a teacher's assistant could be online, and you want to just send them a quick message, hey, I didn't get that last polynomial equation question. Could you just give me a hint on that? Very easy way to hit them without having to do an email. You can just pop up a box. And so that would typically work is you click on this and it pops up a separate box. And this is a web client. And this was actually pretty easy to implement for us because the Messenger guys have a really cool web control. And all this was really doing in PHP behind the scenes is calling their web control and it pops up for us. So
cool.
Integration was easy. The feature set we think is interesting and compelling, and students we've shown it to have said, yeah, this would actually save me some time and let me stay inside the course content. Let me show you one more thing that we're particularly proud about, and that's that a lot of times there are files inside a course. The teacher will oftentimes actually upload files to a course, all kinds of files. It could be documents, it could be movie clips, anything that they want to show the students. A lot of times a problem that teachers have is they have to go find those files somewhere. They either have to download them from Moodle, store them in a folder, and then go compose a message if they want to attach it to the message, for example.
Sure.
One way to work around that was we said, well, why not just give them the ability when they're composing a message, to actually query Moodle and ask it what documents are available to be attached as they're composing the message.
Okay.
So right here in this message, I'll show you a couple of things. One is name resolution. What I'm about to do now is actually a combination of our code and code running on the Exchange web server. So you actually are hitting the Exchange Web Services API to resolve the name that starts with student.
Sure.
This did a round trip to Exchange Web Services, got back a list of names, and we actually picked the highest ranking ones and show it in this list.
Wow.
So behind the scenes, you're seeing PHP code interacting with SOAP code that's calling a service in the cloud and getting back these results.
Okay.
So again, making it easy to do things like looking up names, looking up groups, and so forth. So you would pick a name from the list, you would do a subject here, and then you would go to attach file. This is the place I was telling you about where we actually are querying Moodle for what documents are in this particular course.
Sure.
So if the teacher wanted to send this first document to his or her students, she could just click it, type in a message, here's that document.
And this list is the document specific just to that course. So it's not all documents on the Moodle server for all courses. It's specifically, it knows you've created an email message based on the course that you're currently in.
That's
so it's
right.
showing a subset.
A subset.
Right.
Think of this as a subset that has documents for this particular course.
Okay.
And you can do this in any course that has documents.
Right.
Some courses may not have documents at all, but this one does.
Okay.
So we can actually will take this, and what we're doing now when we hit send is we're calling Moodle, getting the document out of the Moodle database, and then attaching it to the email, and over the Exchange Web Services API, sending the email from that user's account.
Cool.
So all that's happening in the PHP code that's running alongside the Moodle server, actually
Okay.
integrated in the Moodle server.
Cool.
One more thing I want to show you.
All right.
One of the other things we heard when we talked to teachers and students is that they wanted a way to get quick messages, quick bulletins, if you will.
Sure.
And we have something that could help them. It's the Windows Live Alerts service that's out there. And one of the cool things about that service is you can actually create a live alert, and you can send it to a list of people, and those people can decide how they want to get the message. They can get it either as an email, they can get it as a messenger a message, or a little piece of toast, we
Sure.
call it,
Yep.
that pops up, or they can get it on their cell phones. If they've turned on the cell phone, the mobile phone feature, then they can get it as a text message. So imagine if you're busy, you're out somewhere with your friends, and the teacher sends an alert that says, don't forget, we have a test tomorrow.
Right.
You would get the message on your cell phone and say, guys, I gotta go, I forgot I have a test tomorrow, and you can run home and start studying, cramming, whatever you have to do.
That's great.
But another quick way we thought we could connect the teacher and the students in a very easy way, and in a way that sort of matches their lifestyle.
So all the features you've just shown me are elements that have been added to Moodle as part of this Windows Live integration. Is that
That's
correct?
right, that's
so
right.
before or without the Windows Live integration, there are probably ways of doing this, but it's not as well integrated or perhaps not as easy.
That's right. Or there are two separate systems you'd have to go and use. And we definitely have not tried to take over any of the experiences that are in Moodle itself.
Okay.
Instead, what we've done is added the experiences that the Live at EDU services bring, and we thought by integrating those directly into Moodle, it would be a lot easier for you to use those features. And one of the things we thought we would do is also help with what we call feature discovery. Fancy word for saying there's a lot of features built into the live services that someone may not know about.
Sure.
They may not even realize that we have these cool alerts and that they could use them to communicate with their students. So it's a lot of things combined into one. You know, it's giving them some of these features, it's letting them see some of these things they may not have learned about, and it's doing it in a way that we think is as non-intrusive as possible, and in a way that respects the course structure and leaves the course structure in place and makes us be relevant to the course structure, which we think is the right way to do it.
Great. Now, if I'm already a user of Moodle, or perhaps I'm running a Moodle site for an education institution, how do I get this code? What do I do?
One of the cool things about this is we realize that we can't do it all. We can't possibly imagine all of the things that people could do with this. But we realized there were some basic things that we wanted to show the world how to do.
Sure.
Things like integrating with our Live ID system, using the Exchange Web Services API from PHP code. So we sat down and realized that the best way to do that and the best way to participate in the Moodle community was to make our code available in the same way that you get Moodle code.
Okay.
So we're making it freely available under the same license as Moodle.
Oh, wow.
So anybody that's using Moodle can get this code and not have to worry about asking their department or their IT manager about whether there's any issues with downloading this code. It's available, you'll be able to download it. We actually have a website, educationlabs.com. You can go there, and this project is actually on there. And you can download it from there, and it's a zip file with a bunch of documents and a bunch of code and instructions for how to integrate it. And we actually walk you through the steps to be able to put it on your server.
Great.
And one thing I'll mention sort of just as an important note, because we care a lot about not just the educator and the student, but also about the IT professional.
Sure.
The folks kind of behind the scenes that run all this stuff. And a lot of times we realize that these plugins have a lot of features in them, and it might appear like a static set of features. But we also realized we wanted to give them some choice. So there's a settings page for this, for the admin, where they can go in and turn off each of these individual things. So if they don't want to allow Messenger, for example, because teachers might find it distracting, they can just unclick that, and the Messenger block won't even show up in that case. So we kind of are giving a little bit of a shout out to our IT professional friends and making sure they realize that we're making this as configurable as possible. Now that said, we may have missed some configuration setting. For that, you just go back to the source code and you can freely change it.
Now you mentioned before the source code, it is open source, so you are free to obviously change the course code as you see fit. Will your team be maintaining it? Do you see additional features added in the future, or some kind of regular release schedule?
It's a great question. We actually are going to watch very carefully what people think about this, and you can actually comment on this directly on the educationlabs.com site. We're going to watch that pretty carefully. We're committed to supporting what we put out there, and what we add to it really depends on what we hear back.
Okay.
If our friends in the community, if Moodle users come back and ask for one particular thing that we've missed out and we hear it fairly routinely and regularly, we definitely are open to adding that. We're not doing this as a, if you will, a fire and forget kind of thing. We actually want to use it as a way to participate in the community and get feedback and offer our thoughts on what the benefits are of the services that we're providing and how it can help a Moodle installation. We're trying really hard to make this one of the cornerstones of our community engagement.
Great. All right, so once again, do you have the URL for Moodle? Where can we go for more information on the Moodle?
Moodle itself, moodle.org.
.org.
Great website. It's got everything from how to download it, how to use it, even how to write code for it.
Okay.
It's all up there. Everything we needed was on that site. Developers, everybody can kind of go to that one spot. Our site, as I mentioned, is educationlabs.com.
Okay.
And that's where you can download this particular plugin.
Great. It's probably interesting to point out too that Moodle is an entirely PHP-based product.
Yes.
So did you want to talk very briefly about how you guys went about creating the live service integration, specifically based on the fact that it's running on PHP?
You know, it's interesting. We studied a lot of the way people were deploying Moodle. Mm-hmm. And we found a lot of different ways of deploying it. Everything from people running it on Linux servers in a completely Linux kind of an environment. We saw some folks running it on Windows. We saw a combination where in some cases teachers were running it on their laptops, but they were also using a central one in the school. And so we decided to not do anything below the PHP level, the PHP MySQL level, which is kind of how Moodle is built. Mm-hmm. So this code is all pure PHP. It uses what you would have on an environment that runs Moodle.
Okay.
We didn't make it depend on anything specific. There's nothing really Windows specific about it. There's nothing Linux specific about it. It really runs as an extension to Moodle itself. And it's kind of a thing you've been noticing probably Microsoft doing more and more of, is paying attention to the PHP community.
Definitely.
And making sure that we look at what they need and how we can help them out. And there's lots of examples of that. We're just one extension of that, or one further step along that way. And we think it's actually an important thing to do to make this thing as low friction as possible and make it as easily adoptable as possible. Had we made it dependent on a particular service or a particular environmental assumption, I think that would have limited the number of people that could have used it. And we're really after trying to see what people think about this and get their feedback on it. That's kind of the whole approach of the Labs group, if you will.
Well, that's fantastic. I think just one more time, it's moodle.org, and your team's website is?
educationlabs.com.
Kosa, thanks very much for your time.
Thank you.
Cheers.